All right, folks, headed into the weekend, we remember the most consequential terrorist attacks, definitely in my lifetime. Let's look back at what it takes to defend this country and those who do it. Joining me now is former NYPD commissioner and Newsmax contributor who was on the scene as the commissioner at the time the planes hit the tower. Commissioner Bernie Kerik, appreciate you joining me, sir.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. A lot of people, for many years, they chose to ignore the threats out there. They didn't want to think about it. They didn't want to lift their heads out of the sand. And we lived in a bubble. We had a great, fantastic safety record in the country. Terrorists had tried to blow these guys up in the World Trade Center many years, like 10 years before this. This time they succeeded. It woke a lot of people up. Talk about that wake-up call and what you saw you were facing and how unreal it was to see it unfold in front of your eyes.
I think the most disturbing part for me was after I got to the scene, Tower 1 had already been hit. When I got down there, I watched over about a 5-minute period, probably 24 people jump to their death. And as I was waiting for the mayor, the second plane slammed through the north side of Tower 2 on top of me. When you see that big orange fireball blow out the north side of the building, me and my staff and the deputy mayor Loda and people like that were basically standing in the middle of the street watching this unfold. That to me was the worst part of that day, with the exception of that evening having to tell 23 family members that their loved ones in my department were missing.
It is crazy to think. And there's kids graduating high school now that weren't even alive at the time that those planes hit the towers. It really changed the dynamic. So we enter the world stage and realize that there's a lot of bad dudes overseas that don't want us to survive anymore. But the American people said they would never forget. And we've seen the political climate recently and even not so recently. You think we forgot?
Absolutely, 100%. If we didn't forget, you'd have an entire nation right now screaming bloody murder at the fact that Joe Biden is letting millions of illegals and terrorists into this country through the borders. No vetting, no monitoring, no nothing. We know we've arrested a number of people that's on the terror watch list, but they still continue to pour in, and I'm confident for as many as we've grabbed, we've missed. And that means, there's a chance, and I predict this, we will get hit again. Will it be another 9/11, like, missiles flying into buildings? Perhaps not. But we're going to get hit again, and I promise you, they're going to have come through the southwest border. And I just want to touch on one other thing, Carl. People forgetting, I was recently down in Alpharetta, Georgia. There's a high school there, Kings Ridge Christian High School. They had a phenomenal display out front, never forget, and they had hundreds of flags around the front of the school. I wish I saw that in every school. I wish our kids today was being taught the lessons of 9/11 in high school and grammar school. But unfortunately, that part of our history is not being taught, and it really should be.
Yeah, there's an interesting country song that says, if it was up to me, I'd play it every day just so people could remember. I think, the hard reality, I remember when I was in high school and actually younger than high school, the Challenger space shuttle blew up and, they played it for us and they made sure that we remembered how big a tragedy it was. And that wasn't even a terrorist attack because they wanted people to understand the gravity of situations. Now we can't even play these things on many of the airwaves these days because people are offended by it. People, don't like to see it. It's like it is hard to see, but imagine how hard it is for the families. The nearly 3,000 people that died in that had their families to not have their men and women remembered because of such a tragedy. I mean, do you think that this is a societal fall, and can it be brought back?
I think it is a fall, Carl. And the unfortunate thing for us is the further we get away from September 11th, the less vigilant we get, the more complacent we get. Our political leaders aren't focused on it. The bottom line is we should be planning, preparing, and practicing, doing mock drills and tabletop exercises, looking at our intel feeds, which today, I have to tell you, that's one thing that scares me to death, because we're not respected by foreign nations like we were under President Trump or President Bush. People aren't talking to the U.S. like they were then. That's going to be a big problem for us. And I foresee in the future, something's going to happen and we're not going to be ready for it.
Yeah, it is shocking to see the wolves of the world maybe being able to strike again. Bernie Kerik, Commissioner during 9/11. We appreciate you joining us, sir.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, up next.